International wrestling crowds just hit different, don't they? I'm Charles Renton with my review of AEW Grand Slam Australia from the Brisbane Entertainment Centre in Brisbane, Australia. You don't say! So let me know your thoughts on this show in the comments, please. And I want to firstly put over the goddamn crowd. Tremendous energy, tremendous enthusiasm. Australia certainly showed out and showed up, and apparently Tony Khan wants to try this again next year. Maybe he'll actually aim low and then build up from there, instead of going apparently from a 50-something thousand seat stadium to a 13,500 seating capacity arena, where I will say it was a very good atmosphere and the crowd was very, very alive. There were certainly issues that I had with this event that I will talk about, because a lot of it was just a glorified, enhanced collision. But that being said, it was a pretty big crowd and pretty damn enthusiastic. And apparently it had a larger gate than Forbidden Door 2023. That's because of the initial ticket prices, where, God, I really hope they gave those fans a lot of goddamn perks after basically making them pay stadium prices and then reducing it to this particular venue. Tony Khan has to really work a lot harder to make sure that he doesn't burn out international crowds. They had a dive as far as the numbers for, All In the following year. And yeah, okay, they still had a lively crowd at Wembley, but now they're going to do All In Texas, and I know that's not until sometime in July, but just they gotta plan ahead. They gotta do better. Speaking of which, apparently Tony Khan is doing better by cleaning house of some talents. Miro's gone. He might show back up in WWE. I don't really know how well that's going to work. Malachi Black's contract expired. He will no doubt go back to WWE as Aleister Black. And Ricky Starks is already on NXT television, because Tony Khan doesn't know how to push actual goddamn talent. He can push some, and some get over in spite of the fact that Tony Khan doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. But now apparently he has released Rey Fenix. See, if he does this kind of stuff and actually proves that he's not like the other people, then maybe he will have some goodwill with the fans and with the wrestlers. But AEW did some good stuff here. They did send the crowd home happy with, a main event that tied up the story and everything after the build, which has been good, bad, or indifferent. It has certainly been quite the build. It has been something memorable. Probably the best thing they have done with the women's division in quite a while. But Tony really needs to figure out having a central focus and just, promoting shit better, because he got lucky here. He got lucky with people willing to show up for this. Could you imagine, though, if they had only like 20,000 people and a 50,000 seat stadium? It would have been something else. So let's just get right into it. Apparently they had to use a local independent wrestling ring, a 16 by 16 ring, which explains why the apron skirt looked a little bit weird and why the ring seems so small. I know that things happen, logistics, I get that. There's nothing wrong with using a local ring instead of transporting something over there. But the thing is Tony Khan has no pre-planning, has no way of figuring this shit out, and it made it look amateurish. And also, I'm sorry, the ring floor mats were just bothering me. I don't know why they were. I don't know what it was, but the presentation, like the stage was cool. They did have some nice pyro and everything, and the crowd was really loud, but just parts of this just looked really amateur, and that's not good. What was actually pretty goddamn good was Ospreay and Omega against Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita, as I keep calling him the Alphaba Konosuke Takeshita, because apparently Wicked stuck in my mind a lot more than I thought. The crowd was insanely loud, and they pulled out the big moves. I don't know why they bothered having a referee, because the referee wasn't able to enforce tags. I think after Omega did a pseudo hot tag to Will, they kind of just gave up having people tag in. At least it seemed like it. There were parts of this where it's like, okay, they're just doing moves, they're just doing stuff. But these guys have all had a story. Takeshita being Omega a couple times within like 6 days. Fletcher and Ospreay, allies, blood enemies, blood relatives, blood brothers, blood kin. I mean, there's a lot of blood going on here. They did some good stuff, though. They did stuff that excited the goddamn crowd, and while it wasn't psychologically any kind of tag team championship match or tag team match, or it was pretty much in line with a lot of AEW tag team matches. Yeah, I know it wasn't for the tag team championships, but let's be perfectly honest. I mean, the Hurt Syndicate's going to need to have those titles for about 6 months to rebuild the credibility of those. So, they targeted Kenny for a bit. Kyle landed on his head after a spike DDT. Callis interferes, because this company needs more creeps on television. And a sky twist by Ospreay. There was a messy poison run. I don't know what they were trying to do there. A super cutter. 2 double pile drivers. Well, as opposed to 1 double pile driver. Basically, the heels did dueling pile drivers. And then we got a knee. This will not end as what I noted. This probably could have ended about 3 to 5 minutes sooner than it did. But still, the crowd was really, into it. And you couldn't help but get into it. Takeshita, did some impressive stuff because he's one of the few that they've signed from another company that is pretty goddamn good. And then Will hits a dive. And then eventually they do the Hidden Blade Angel, the Hidden Angel, whatever it is, the one-wing blade, whatever you want to call it, where Will hits the Hidden Blade off the top and Kenny hits his finish 1, 2, 3. And there you are. Harley Cameron got a big pop. And that's good. She seemed really happy. And it was nice to see, home country, talent getting big pops here. And you could tell Harley was overcome with emotion. Momo Watanabe is at ringside because she earned a championship shot anytime she wants. Which I forgot about. I'll admit that. Mercedes against Harley. Look, if it wasn't for the crowd and if it wasn't for the fact that Harley's antics actually were selling me on paying attention to this, Mercedes, at her best, can find the magic still. Mercedes, however, should never cut promos. She's not genuine, and I wish I loved anything a quarter as much as Mercedes loved herself. And that's fine. You should have confidence in yourself. But the thing is she's about this good compared to how she thinks she is. So, Harley brought out the puppet. The crowd made this work. The crowd made this work as best they could. Harley's not there yet, but Harley is getting better, and she was into it, and she has improved. Harley had a destroyer at one point. There was a spot with the puppet and everything where she was all upset. She did end up missing a senton, and Mercedes hit the moneymaker 1, 2, 3. It wasn't a terrible match. The crowd really elevated this as far as a rating, higher than it normally would have been. Bless Harley, she tried. So Omega and Ospreay are backstage, and they're going to have respective singles matches. Omega says, "You want to prove you're the best, Takeshita? Face me at the pay-per-view." Oh, and Will and Kyle Fletcher are going to face off in a steel cage. Bruv. So, the Adam Copeland, got a big old sing-along to his theme, and that is pretty much where the positives of this particular match end. Because it is Copeland and Jay White, the Kiwi Crusher himself, against Jon Moxley and Claudio with Marina. That we still don't know. It's a Brisbane brawl, and yeah, just weapons and bullshit, and what do you expect? It's a Jon Moxley match, it's a Death Riders match, and it doesn't mean anything. I don't mind brawls, and I don't mind stuff where no rules are enforced, but the thing is, the first tag team match didn't have a lot of rules enforced either. So, is this really any different? Well, yes, because I like most of the talents in that match. I was there for I was there for Copeland's debut at WrestleDream 2023. And it was a big moment. And it has been a fucking nosedive into the Grand Canyon ever since. Moxley is a wanker chance. Copeland goes through a table. There was tables and canes, kendo sticks, a barbed wire chair. And Wheeler showed up, so that means wrestling's dying a little bit more because this mop-top idiot thinks that he belongs in the ring instead of on the other side with the fans. I'm sorry, but there is no universe where Wheeler Yuta deserves to be on a mainstream wrestling program. He's not good. He is not worth a tinker shit. He is not worth half of what Tony Khan is paying him. I don't care if people like him. He is not good. He is not worth this spot. There are a bunch of other goddamn people that they could be using a whole lot better, but no, let's feature goddamn Wheeler Yuta. This goddamn piled mop top shit. Yeah, barbed wire chair. I mean, really. Fucking really. Man, remember when Copeland could have actually done something beneficial for this company? By the way, we get Marina right in. We get Wheeler right in. So wrestling continues to die. A slow death. They still say Wheeler's parents need to be brought up on charges by the Geneva Convention for producing him. In fact, let's just get the grandparents charged as well, assuming they're still alive, for producing the parents that produced Wheeler Yuta. And the chokeout wins it. Okay, maybe Copeland beats Moxley at Revolution, and then Christian cashes in, and then we revisit that bullshit, because that's a feud that we need to reignite for about the millionth time with two guys that qualify for AARP status. You know, it's funny, WWE has a lot of old people. They do. They have a lot of people that are near, at, or over 40. But they feel fresh. And I'm not even a big fan of a lot of what WWE's fucking doing, but if we're going to compare these, if we're going to get tribalistic or whatever, AEW is struggling. Yeah, they had moments here and they had a hot crowd, but this is the first hot crowd they have had for a television program in a while. Yeah, the chokeout wins it, and this just kept going. This just because this Moxley stuff is bad. Jon Moxley is easily the worst AEW World Champion they've had. Because, yeah, Chris Jericho was the first one. Chris Jericho being the champion made sense. Jon Moxley has gone from being one of the biggest, momentum, boosters. He's gone from one of their biggest stars, one of the people that absolutely can be relied on to carry this company, where all he's doing now is carrying it on his back and going down into a ditch of shit. And that's what this Death Rider stuff is. And Okada took on Buddy. Buddy got a pop. It's a Continental Championship match. There was nothing wrong with this match in particular, but they made me not want to watch an Okada match. They did moves. They did some impressive stuff because Buddy's a really good athlete. And Okada, when he wants to actually say something other than bitch and actually show up, can do stuff. But the thing is, he carried New Japan on his back for so goddamn long and fought there so much. I don't blame him for taking the paycheck and doing what he's doing, but yeah. Anyway, he eventually hit the Rainmaker and got the victory. So he retained the championship. There you go. Thanks for coming, buddy. The Hounds of Hell have been neutered. I did not expect, by the way, to see Buddy win. I did like how he broke out the prison trap at one point. Gee, I wonder where he learned that. Renee narrates a Tony Mariah package. Do not ever have Renee do this again. Get somebody else. Literally get anybody else. Maybe don't get Serena Deeb to do it, but get Jamie Hayter to do it. Who wouldn't want to hear Jamie Hayter talk about this stuff? Mariah makes her entrance. Luther is an usher. Kind of where he actually belongs, as being an usher, because he was definitely not a professional wrestler. And Tony gets a big pop. She looks great. She's a star. Home country gal. She's getting the pomp and circus pants and all that. You know what? Yeah, they maybe did a few too many finishers and they did a couple too many, big things. But I will say this, as far as story, as far as build, they did the best they could. I'm not saying I loved every single thing that Mariah and Tony have done, but they've at least tried to tell a story that is a story in theory. It's cohesive-ish, but they made it work. They made it work the best they could. There were Germans like crazy. The threat of all of us all around us. Dirty Blondes fisting in Brisbane. I saw that in the movie once. An STF by Tony. She sort of hit a ring, did the butt bump into the ring post. Kind of, maybe, sort of. I don't encourage people to run into the ring post, but yeah, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Mayday on the floor. There's fuck you Nigel chants. Whatever. A shotgun drop kick by Mariah. So they're breaking out the stuff. We then got a lot of finishers. We got Tony hitting Mayday. We got a hip attack times 3 and a Storm Zero for 2. And then we got a Mayday times 2 for 2. We just got, a bunch of stuff going. Like, so Mariah was getting 2 counts. Tony was getting 2 counts. A slap fight, a powerbomb, a Storm Zero. And Mariah rolled outside. That was a nice little piece. That was good. And then, Storm Zero, was Storm Zero by May. And then it looks like Mariah's going to do something else. But no, the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling, the surprise roll-up. 1, 2, 3, and Tony won. For all that, she won with a goddamn surprise roll-up. Okay, that's it. Good night. No, seriously, that was it. They ended it right there. So, it was nice to have a hot crowd, and I hope everybody there had fun. But this was a total goddamn debacle as far as, the ticket prices for the fans and all that. So they better have given themselves given the fans a goddamn kit and caboodle, a bunch of merch, a bunch of this stuff, and made sure that the fans were happy. Because they got shafted. They got shafted big time. I don't know much about Australia, but I can imagine Brisbane is, based on what little bit I looked at on a map, it doesn't look like there's a large populace to draw from in Brisbane. So for those that live in Brisbane or the environs, let me know, should they have run another city? Is there another city with a bigger populace? Because I know WWE ran Perth. I know there's Adelaide, I think is the name of another one. I know there's Melbourne. I know there's Sydney. But whatever, it was what it was, but AEW still got a lot of problems, and they need to fix some things. Oh, yes, and by the way, you may have noticed I did not review this past week's Dynamite because it was taped, I was busy, and besides MJF and Dustin, that was pretty much all I cared about. So, yeah, I am going to get at least to Revolution, possibly to Dynasty, and I'm not talking about the series, and I'm going to see about what more I want to continue to review weekly from AEW and wrestling in general. Because it's getting tough. They got to give people reasons to tune in or they're just going to be stuck at the same spot and they're never going to rise up. So anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlin and I'll see you soon.